if we don't have clarity on that vision, that thing that we're aiming towards, if we don't have clarity on it, then we're leaving our day to randomness. We're leaving our month to randomness. And we're also leaving our team to randomness. And if you wonder why you're still stuck in the middle of everything, or if you wonder why things aren't getting done, things aren't moving forward, even like the team, the employees aren't doing what they need to do or what your expectations are, there's definitely an alignment issue. So we want to make sure that on a regular basis, you have clarity on what you're working towards, because then everything else can flow from there. Hello and welcome. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of the Amuse Bouche Leadership Bites, to help you be a better leader, to help you scale your business, and to just help you to have more freedom in your day. So today, I was recently participated in a Q&A all about scaling your business and about succession planning. And the one question that came up that I was asked, and I wanted to talk about it today because it is something that people ask me a lot about, which is all about leadership alignment. Especially as it relates to scaling your business. How important is it? And how do you know when there isn't like an alignment there? Okay. So we're going to talk about this also today as it relates to overwhelm, because one of the causes of overwhelm, I should say, is when you aren't in alignment. And people think alignment means one thing, and it actually means something else. So we're going to talk about all of that today. All right. So we're just going to jump right in. Okay. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, and let me tell you, the majority of whether you are a C-suite executive, you are a founder of a business, you are a Main Street business owner, or you're even a leader in a business, overwhelm, burnout, frustration, stress is at an all-time high. So if you are one of those people, you are going to want to listen to this, because again, we are going to talk about, and the question that was asked to me, and I actually have it right here. The question that was asked was, how important is leadership alignment when you're scaling? And how do founders shift from being the operator to a visionary? Which we're going to talk about that as well. So let's just start first and foremost. I'm just going to address this one thing. This is not the topic for today. Well, it's going to be a topic for another time, which is the difference between growing a business and scaling a business. So easiest, simplest way that I look at it, because long ago, someone told me this, and it's stuck with me since, is that growing a business, when you're growing a business, and people go through phases of growing and scaling. I don't believe, and there might be experts out there that will disagree with me, but I don't believe that you're growing, you're in growth phase, and then you go to scale phase, and then that's it. I do believe that you're in growth phase, you get to scale phase, and then when a pivot has to happen, or something new is happening, something new comes into the business, you might be back in growth phase again. I do believe that to be true. I've seen it. So growth, when you're growing a business, you're starting off, or maybe you've already started the business and you're growing and you're trying to figure things out, and you're trying to get your team in place, and you're trying to get your systems in place, and you're making all of those things happen. And when you get it set and it's working, and you have tested stuff out, you've tested offers out, you've tested products out, you've tested all kinds of systems out. And when you get it right, when you start to scale, that's when you actually say, okay, what isn't profitable and we get rid of that, you prune, and you continue moving forward with what has been working for the business, and how can you make that get repeatable results from those offers, those services, those systems, those processes, whatever. And when that scale phase happens, typically as the business owner, that is when you really do have to pull back and drive the vision and have the right people in place. Which, when you don't do that, that is when that misalignment happens. So, one of the mistakes, so let me go back to the question. The original question that was asked to me is how important it is. Is it? It's hugely important, hugely. And when we're talking about alignment, we're talking about number one, having clarity. Number one thing that all high performing leaders, high performing people must have, or seek, I should say, is clarity. So clarity on what direction are we going? What is our vision? Clarity on our goals, and making sure that we have alignment between the goals that we're setting and what we're driving towards, and that big vision. That vision of not just what is it that we want to do, that difference that we want to make, but who do we want to become along the way? And if we don't have alignment between who we want to become or who we need to become and what we're striving for, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be friction that's going to either force us to grow, or a lot of people they view that friction as being negative, and then they want to retreat backwards, right? They want to go back into their comfort zone of trying to micromanage everything or trying to control everything or whatever it is. So that vision of who do we want to become or who do we need to become, and what is it that we're driving towards? What is that difference that we're trying to make with what we're doing? That's vision. Then we have the goals of, okay, here are the milestones that we want to accomplish that align with whatever it is that we want to, that we're striving for, that we're aiming for. Okay. Building out this platform, this SaaS platform, building out this, becoming the best restaurant in the area, building out a private label food line, whatever it is for your business, the vision, and then the milestones, the goals that we're going to work towards monthly, weekly, daily, that we set our rhythms with our team on, that those align with the vision. Same thing. What are the steps that we're going to take to make sure that we're achieving those goals, those milestones that we set? Making sure that we have alignment between each. And if there is a gap, and I've seen this with teams where they set goals of things that they want to accomplish, but then there isn't an alignment with the execution of those goals, the tasks that need to happen on a regular basis. And a lot of that has to do with the first thing that I said was clarity. Clarity on, you can't have alignment with people if they don't have clarity as far as what are we working towards, what are we trying to accomplish, what are our goals, and what do we need to do to get there. If there isn't clarity on that, people don't know what they're working towards, and there's confusion. And that's when trust starts to erode with our business, with our team, and then with the team and the business, and the team and the leader. And we just have a bit of a spiral, I could say. So if there's a gap there, there's going to be misalignment. And especially when you are growing and scaling your business, okay, whether you're, depending on where you are, if there isn't alignment with this is what we're trying to achieve, and if the things that we're doing on a daily basis, whether they're tasks that we have to do or projects that are being worked on a regular basis, don't align with what we're trying to accomplish, there's going to be a gap. There's going to be a misalignment. And this happens, like I said, I've seen this on many teams where they say, we want to launch this particular product. Okay. We want to launch this new product in our business. And the team is all like, yes, we're going to launch this new product. And then the business owner or the founder or even a leader comes in and says, oh, this is what we're doing now. And they put something else in there. Or they say, okay, here is the priority du jour. And that project or that big goal that they had that everybody had flushed out and said, this is what we're going to be working towards, completely gets derailed. Again, there's a misalignment. So if there's a gap in between those things, vision, goals, strategy, execution, there's going to be a misalignment. And when there isn't alignment, that's when friction starts. And that friction is forcing things to get into alignment. And when they don't and breakdowns start to happen, that's when conflict happens. That's when breakdown happens. That's when chaos starts. And that's when people get super discouraged and it just kind of topples from there. So the big thing is to make sure that whatever it is that you're working towards, that number one, people are clear on it, but also number two, everything that you're doing in your business, you're working towards that. Okay. The other thing is that people, when this happens and that misalignment is happening in your business, or when you're saying, okay, this is what I want to work towards, this vision, and we have these goals set in place, and then you end up reacting to every single thing that's happening out there, every single circumstance that's happening, and you find yourself at the end of the day, and again, I see this a lot as well, is that you end up at the end of the day and you didn't do anything that was related to that big goal that you were working towards, or things that aren't in alignment with the vision that you have and that thing that you're striving for. And you ended up just being a firefighter all day. And that is when people start to say to me, I feel overwhelmed. I feel burned out. And that burnout, many times people think that overwhelm is because you have so many things on your plate to do. But what it really stems from is it's not an external thing. It's not like, again, like you just have so many things on your plate. It's that, and it might be that you have a lot of stuff on your plate that you need to do, but where it's coming from is that misalignment. It's coming from things that you have on your plate that they're things that either A, you shouldn't be doing, that you could delegate out, or that really they're probably not your responsibility in the first place. Or they're just things that don't align with that big goal that you're working towards, or that big vision that you're working towards. So that overwhelm and that burnout is just coming from like literally managing all of the fires that come your way. And I did read an article about this. It was probably about a couple months ago. I read an article where they interviewed a bunch of managers. It was middle level managers. And also they had interviewed some C-suite executives. And they were saying that it was like 60% of their time. Yeah, it was like 60% of their time they spend putting out fires. They spend in meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, just putting out fires all day. And they feel burned out because all they're doing is just problem, 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 problem. And they're not actually driving the vision forward. They're not actually driving goals or projects forward. And they get frustrated. So when I come in and I'm like, let's, build a strategy, and they're like, I don't have time to do this because we have all of these problems that are happening. And what they don't realize is most of those problems, they have people on their team that could be handling some of those things. But since the team doesn't have clarity on what it is that they're working towards, or you've moved the goalpost several times with the projects that you've been working on and when they're due and what the goals are and all of that stuff, It just creates a lot of confusion. It creates a lot of conflict, and it creates a lot of frustration. And all of that is an alignment problem. So, and what goes along with this is so we're going to go back to something from earlier, when the business owner is consistently functioning in that operator mode, they're consistently in the middle of all of the decisions and all of the things that need to happen, even though they have a team here that they hired. One of the mistakes that I see is that, and the business owner comes back and says, I'm still doing everything. Well, part of that is because, again, there wasn't an alignment with who do you need on your team. They end up hiring a lot of people that are great doers, but people who aren't necessarily leaders who can get in alignment with what this vision is and make sure that they understand what needs to happen, and some of that stuff comes off of the founder's plate or comes off of the executive's plate or whatever it is. So it comes down to, again, another alignment issue, which is making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people, making sure that you have the right people in the right roles. So if we kind of bring this all together and we kind of say, all right, what do we have here? What is this alignment thing? The first thing is that you understand, as a founder, as a business owner, as a leader, you understand what your role is. You understand who you need to become as the leader, as the business owner, as the founder, in order to continue to move your business forward, in order to continue to increase revenue, to increase profitability, to make sure that the operations are running smoothly, and make sure that they run smoothly and you don't have to be in the middle of everything. So that's the first part of alignment. The second part of alignment, and as your business grows and as things shift and change, your role is going to shift and change. And if you're not growing the business at one point, if the business is growing and you're not growing, there's going to be friction. If you're growing but the business is growing, there's going to be frustration. So it's constantly having that internal piece aligned, in alignment. The second thing is, again, making sure that, all right, what is it that we're driving towards? What is it that our aim is? If we don't have clarity on that vision, that thing that we're aiming towards, if we don't have clarity on it, then yeah, we're leaving our day to randomness. We're leaving our month to randomness. And we're also leaving our team to randomness. So when people come in for the day, and if you wonder why you're still stuck in the middle of everything, or if you wonder why things aren't getting done, things aren't moving forward, even like the team, the employees aren't doing what they need to do or what your expectations are, there's definitely an alignment issue. So we want to make sure that on a regular basis, you have clarity on what you're working towards, because then everything else can flow from there. Everything else can get into alignment and get into the right order and move forward, right? And what that also does is when you have alignment, because it's not just about growth. When you have that alignment, in times where there is a lot of chaos, in times where, like right now, we're experiencing increased cost of product because the price of oil has gone up, the price of gas has gone up. I talked about, if you listen to my podcast this week, I talked about price of tomatoes tripling, and the chef coming to me and saying, I don't know what to do. We should probably take tomatoes off the menu. And it was like, no. So in times of chaos, when there's alignment and everybody knows that no matter what, this is what we're working towards, it helps to make handling those chaotic moments a heck of a lot easier. It makes handling situations like that, it makes the decision tree very easy as to Does this align with what we're working towards? If the answer is no, it comes off of our plate. If the answer is yes, then we find a way to get it done. So, bottom line to all of this is alignment is so key. And it's not just the external things that matter to get them in alignment, it's the internal things. Making sure that you, as the founder, are showing up in a way that is in alignment, giving clarity, holding that space for people to voice their concerns, to make sure that you're consistently talking about and explaining, or just putting out there what that vision is, what your vision is, what you're working towards, so everybody understands it. And making sure that that alignment, it starts from the inside and it goes to the outside. That alignment is key. And if you are going from growth phase to scale phase, it becomes even more important to stay in alignment, because it's very easy to have that shiny object syndrome and say, oh, we need to add all these new things in because we want to scale. And the truth is, you do the exact opposite. You want to make sure that you're in alignment with, these are the things that work for us, and this is what we're going to go all in on. So I hope that this helped you. Leadership alignment is so important to, number one, make sure that you have the right people on your team, to make sure that you're aligned with what it is that you're driving towards, and to make sure that everybody in your organization is in alignment with what matters most, what to focus on, what you're working towards, and the difference that you want to make. So I hope that this helped you. Stay tuned for our Amuse Bouche next week. We have a special guest on that is going to be so super exciting to have her. But until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope that this helped you. Remember, one of the fastest ways to get to let go of burnout and to let go of overwhelm and to get through it is to get yourself back in alignment with what matters most. Get clarity on what it is that you're working towards. From there, everything else falls into place. Have a great rest of your week.